Hey, For My Dawgs family, before we start the podcast, we wanted to give a quick disclaimer. This episode is going to talk about abuse, domestic violence, drugs, and alcohol. And so we just want to go ahead and prepare you that there's viewer discretion advised on this. And we hope you enjoyed the episode and we hope that you gain a lot from it. But we just wanted to, because we love you, be upfront with you before you begin this podcast.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing any type of abuse or domestic violence, we wanted to give this resource so you can reach out for help. If you or someone you know is going through that experience, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline 24/7 anytime at 800-799-SAFE. Again, that's 800-799-SAFE. We hope that if you're in that scenario, you will have the bravery and courage to reach out for help. But without further ado, enjoy the episode. All right, welcome to the For My Dawgs podcast. Got a special episode for you today. You may see, if you're watching, a familiar face. You may be like, that guy looks familiar. And you would be correct because he was the cover to our Santa episode. And so we have a very special guest with us today. And also, as you can tell, I'm outnumbered. So that's unfortunate. But we'll get into some Georgia-Tennessee banter in a little bit. But Johnny, would you please introduce our guest today?
Yes, you said earlier that this was a cover of the Santa Claus, but this is Santa Claus. This is right. This is the original Santa Claus. Or maybe not now, but soon to be. You know, there might be rumors that he's in training. You know, we'll keep those as rumors. But for everybody who does not know, this is the famous Craig Gardiner, also known as my dad. So, Dad, how you doing?
What's up, guys? Doing great, doing really good. It's truly an honor to be on this podcast. So you're really reaching it when you're asking me to be on your podcast. So,
oh no, not at all. I wanted you to come on for a long time, and you and I are matching. We didn't even plan that. We both got the old school Georgia going on.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, listen.
Hey, but I came ready. Uga could never wear, a coonskin cap. Come on.
And that is cool.
Uga wishes he was that cool.
I have to admit,
yes.
That's a good looking shirt.
I will admit. Uga is right now, probably sleeping.
Yes.
I could probably put a lot of money on it that Uga is sleeping right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But hey, listen, we had the playoffs this week, Thursday and Friday. And they were, I'll admit, Thursday was how I expected it. Friday, not so much. But Thursday, Notre Dame came out. Is it true that Penn State's wide receivers never caught a single pass?
Yeah.
That is insane.
He was like, I want to say it was 0 for 6 when he was targeting receivers. All his completed passes were to tight ends, which I'm putting them losing that game on the coach because they got the ball back and decided they got one first down running the ball. And I think there was 30 something seconds left. And then their coach has the bright idea to be aggressive and throw it when you haven't completed a pass to a receiver the entire game.
Yeah.
You're in this game because of your offensive line, defensive line, and the run game. That's why you're in this game. And they just completely chose to risk it all by throwing a pass, and then he throws the interception, and then they kick the field goal to win. And then they also, on the kick, I don't know if you guys saw this, they had 2 deep safeties because they were expecting a
preparing.
fake.
Yeah.
When that's the most important kick of the game. Why would you not have everybody and their mother trying to block that kick?
Right.
Yeah.
So if James Franklin is still at Penn State next year after being 1-15 against top 5 teams.
1-15.
At what point do they look at him and be like, all right, dude, you've had your chances.
True.
You even got handed a trip to the college football playoff semifinal, and you still couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, that was bad coaching. But listen, after that game, I went back and looked at Notre Dame's schedule this past year, and I was like, Notre Dame scored the least amount of points on Georgia. We're not going to talk about Northern Illinois when they lost to them. We're not going to compare ourselves. But out of top 25 teams, Georgia's defense is still the best defense against Notre Dame's offense. So we'll say that. And Ohio State, I think did Tennessee score more points than Texas?
How many did Texas score?
24.
I don't remember. They scored more. We only scored 17.
No, 17, that's right.
But we did have more points in the first half than Texas did. So I'll take that.
Yeah, that game, I thought that was going to be a blowout.
Yeah, the way it started, I was like, oh, here we go again. Yeah.
Yeah. I was very surprised by that. I did not see that. And there was also kind of like an interception at the very end, too, with
the strip sack. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was Ewer's, the tight end was Ewer's old roommate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
defensive end, you mean?
Oh, sorry, defensive end. And I was like, dude, why'd you do that to your roommate, man? You just embarrassed him on national television.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, Texas, their defense is legit. Well, I think it would have been a blowout, but Ohio State kept shooting themselves in the foot with penalties, which they hadn't done in the first two games. But it's funny, Johnny, hearing you talk about, you going back and looking at Notre Dame, what they scored and everything, because it's just like, welcome to the Losers Club, man. That's what we do. We go back and we try and make ourselves feel better by looking at, Texas, what happens in the other games.
Yeah, well, I'm actually wrong when I said earlier. Texas only scored 14 points. Okay. So you did score more.
So we did score more than Texas.
So we're both in the same bracket.
How about that? Yep.
Yeah. And Ohio State, didn't the quarterback get like a huge welt on his hand?
Yeah. So I saw it. It was when he was running the ball on one play and a dude's face mask just like hit him in the hand, which I've had that happen when I played football. That does not feel good. Ever.
Me too.
So
I broke all my bones in my hand from that.
Yeah.
And I kept
He's
playing.
lucky it was on his non-throwing hand.
Yeah.
For sure.
That helped out.
Yeah.
So we have the two teams, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Dad, what are your predictions for the national championship?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is fighting Irish.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, they got three factors that the other teams don't.
What is that?
They got Rudy, the ghost of Rudy.
Oh, wait. Dad, wait.
The ghost of Rudy.
Can I stop you real quick?
Go ahead.
Can I make you really mad?
Go ahead.
Oh, let's not start off making him mad.
Tucker's never watched Rudy.
Dude, man, really?
Hold on. I've seen parts of it. I've just never sat down and watched the whole thing.
3 minutes does not count. 3 minutes does not count.
You've got to watch. Dude, he beats up on Georgia Tech. I mean, that's
the best part of the whole movie.
No wonder you guys love that movie.
The whole movie.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So what were your other two? So the Ghost of Rudy.
Yeah. You've got the best intro song out there.
What is their intro song?
Is it
they come into? Y'all know.
Dropkick Murphys?
Dropkick Murphy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is hype.
That is the best. Enter the Sandman. You've been brainwashed, son. I'm sorry, but
oh man, you're gonna get some people mad.
That's a great. I've got it on my playlist for workout. But man, whenever I'm really struggling in the gym, I go to Dropkick Murphy. I mean, that is my go-to song. So how can you lose with that coming into the stadium? And then the number one factor, Touchdown Jesus.
They do it. I was expecting you to include that in your top three, so I'm glad that you did.
And that's why we lost.
Yeah, that's why we lost.
Yeah. I was on their side.
I was on their side, obviously. But hey, listen, to your point about Enter Sandman, you do need to come to a VT game. So I think we need to get that for next fall. We need to do a whole trip to VT. And I can't promise.
A lot of football games you want to do next year.
I know. Listen, I know. YOLO, right? So
I actually would love to go to South Bend and go to a Notre Dame game as well at some point.
Oh, that would be amazing.
When NC State played there, and he said it's just like the campus, the stadium, the atmosphere is incredible. So and to see Touchdown Jesus in person, I mean, come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
In person.
Go rub that stone. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So, Tucker, do you want to talk about like what's going on potentially for the next few weeks?
Yes, I was going to get to that. Listeners, we want you to know, as always, that we do what we do week in and week out for you guys. And so one way we want to give back to you just for you giving us so much of your time throughout this year so far and your attention and just helping us really get this thing up off the ground. Is we want to hear what you guys would like for us to talk about on the podcast. And so, we can take things from you for future episodes, but not, let's see, Johnny, it's not this week, but the next is when we're going to do the Q&A, like mailbag type episode.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, in 2 weeks. So if you will, you can send us an email at formydawgs24@gmail.com. If you have either Johnny or I's cell phone number, you can shoot us a text. Or if you follow us on Instagram, and if you don't follow us, you should. It's ForMyDawgs_UTUGA. Shoot us a DM. Let us know either a topic you want us to talk about in some future episode, or just a question you have about maybe something we've talked about already, or just something that came to mind, recently that you would like for us to try and look into and tackle and talk about. So yeah, 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a Q&A mailbag type episode where we're taking your questions, your feedback, and that's going to be what we talk about that week. So we really need your participation in this, or else we're not going to have anything to talk about. So please shoot us a message, shoot us an email, whatever way is easiest for you, because we started this podcast to help men become the best version of themselves and to highlight that they can't do it alone. And we can't properly help you become the best version of yourselves unless you let us know the types of things you're struggling with, needing to know, wanting to learn, so that we can come alongside you and help you. So please take the time to do that. And to transition out of that, Johnny and Craig, I know you guys typically are mainly Georgia football fans, and the other sports, which Georgia's not really good at anything else. So there's not much to pay attention to.
We got a good softball team.
Hey, I'm about to give Georgia props, okay?
Okay.
In basketball, they're coming off 2 ranked wins. So they upset Kentucky, I think it was on Tuesday night. And then, last night they just beat Oklahoma, who was ranked 17th. I think Kentucky was in the top 10. So back-to-back big wins. Tennessee got their butts whooped by Florida that same night on Tuesday. And then we just beat Texas. And now this Wednesday, you guys are coming to Knoxville for a matchup in basketball. And Johnny, you and I are actually going to be hanging out that night with Cole, who was on the podcast before.
That's true. Yeah.
So everybody pray for Cole.
Yeah.
Me and Johnny are going to be bickering.
He's going to be in the corner just sitting by himself.
Yeah. So whatever we end up doing, Johnny, it needs to have a TV with the game on.
Okay. I can make that happen. Yes. Hey, listen, I think you just jinxed us. I think that's what you did, is you just spoke our praises so that we would get jinxed.
Maybe.
I think that was
on purpose.
Yeah, I think that was a little reverse psychology what you just did just now.
I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of forgot Georgia had a basketball program.
I'm not a Georgia fan. I'm a Georgia football fan. So unfortunately, and you know what? If you have an issue with that, that's tough. So I only like football. So, but yes, but yeah. So I mean, unfortunately, God did not bless my dad and I with basketball skills.
No, he did not.
So we did not. So since like most men, when you're not good at something, you don't care to invest in it. So that's what.
Yeah.
I know
that's pretty spot on. That's pretty true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So their coach, Georgia's coach, I noticed watching the game last night, he used to be Florida's coach, I'm pretty sure. And then they let go of him, and so now he's at Georgia. But he was a pretty good coach at Florida. I don't know why it didn't work out there. So maybe Georgia will start being competitive in basketball. Really, the SEC as a whole in basketball this year has been very impressive.
We need somebody.
Which is not the norm. So
yeah. Hey, you know what?
Pretty cool.
Maybe that's what we can do in the spring is follow basketball, and I just won't talk the entire time. But right now, we're still in football season, and I don't know why I said that, because this is not a football conversation, but this is my transition. So yeah.
You're doing great. Keep it up.
So like I said a few minutes ago that, we want to hear from you on your topics. Well, today we're going to hear from my dad, about his life and upbringing, and listeners, just buckle up and get ready. It's going to be a really good episode with this. And so, Dad, if we're going to start this, we'll start with a very simple, easy question. If you could share what your childhood was like, and especially talk about what it was like without having a strong father figure. I know we're coming out of the gate with hard questions, but the floor is yours, Dad. So if you want to talk about your childhood in that way.
And if you want to start just with like a few small things about yourself too, just to kind of ease into it, feel free to do that as well, Craig.
I'm good, but I got to clear the air.
Oh, yeah.
You used the wrong word.
I know. And Tucker, I forgot to tell you about this, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't call him father. I gave him the title years ago, donor. He doesn't deserve the title of being a father. I mean, he was an abusive man. He was hard. You know, I've thought about this a lot. I've talked about my story with other guys. I mean, I work in construction, and, you see a lot of guys going through the same struggles that you've gone through as a kid. And sometimes you're able to talk to them, and sometimes you can't. But I sum it up as, what I remember my childhood is fear and abandonment. And I know those are strange to put those two words together. But the fear part as a kid, I mean, like I said, the man was abusive. I mean, he didn't hold back. I mean, if he got mad, he let you have it. I can remember grandma, mama, walking on eggshells constantly just to try to keep the peace whenever he was around. He was an amazing mechanic. One good thing I did get from him was my mechanic skills, be able to work on stuff. But he was an amazing mechanic for airlines, the aircraft mechanic. But he chose to work night shifts, and he chose to have, weekdays off so he wouldn't have to spend time with us. But working night shifts, he's asleep whenever we're at home being kids, running around. But I can remember Mama just walking on eggshells to keep us away from him, especially like if he's sleeping or whatever. We grew up having everything. I mean, we had every toy possible that a kid can have. We had a swimming pool in the backyard. We had the camper. We had a boat, and believe it or not, we had an airplane. I mean, we didn't own an airplane, but like I said, he was a mechanic. He was part of a small aircraft club, so we had access to fly. But we can never invite friends to come and hang out and enjoy those things. Mama would send us down the road to another family's house that was actually, that was a single mama. Those kids hardly had anything. But we would go down there and play just to keep peace with him. And, I can remember them constantly wanting to come over and go swim. But if he was there, that was a hard no. I mean, we knew that. But whenever I say abusive, he was abusive. Now, I can remember an incident with my older brother that, we're hitting the ground running, but literally picking him up. My brother was probably 8th grade, but he picked him up and just body slammed him on our dining room table. And, closed fists, beating him. And I can remember my brother kicking and screaming, doing everything he possibly do to defend himself. And I can remember Mama, trying to pull him off and screaming, "You're going to kill him. Stop. You're going to kill him." And then there was 3 of us. I had a younger brother also. And we're in the next room screaming and begging him to stop. We're helpless. There's nothing we can do. But I can clearly remember that as if it was yesterday. I mean, those are things that haunt you, that you just can't forget. But it was crazy. After it was over with, it was over with. You don't talk about it. You go in the room. Go to your room. And you never discussed it. It just it happened. But another example was, and this is really kind of funny if you can say abuse is funny, but it really sums up, our life as kids growing up in our household, growing up with donor, that my oldest brother got a new fishing pole. It was called a pocket fisherman. it was a horrible fishing pole, but it was about yay big. You can the rod was fold back and you can put it in your back pocket and have like little compartments that you can put your hooks and everything in it. Well, Florida, man, that's the place for a kid to grow up. You've got the beach, you've got canals. We had a canal 100 yards away from the house. So we're fishing all the time as kids growing up.
Yeah, you grew up, to clarify, you grew up in Miami, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Miami-Dade County is right before you get to the Keys. So we were just about as far south as you can get. Now our family's here in Georgia. So, and the donor took us from Georgia and moved us down to Florida. And that's where, in Mama's defense, she had no one. And back in that time, you didn't have the help that you do today. You didn't understand. You didn't know the abuse. You were just told to stop doing it. And divorce was taboo. She's on her own. She was struggling also. And I never saw him. I don't remember seeing him hit her, but I know it was an abusive environment for her, just like it was for us. I mean, there's no way. But anyhow, so I'm out there fishing with this pocket fisherman. I catch a bass. This huge bass, man, it's a big bass. Take it back home, and Mom was wanting to try to create this, great moment with Donor and his 3 boys. And I came across this picture. She decided to take a picture of us holding that fish, holding that bass. Well, my brother, he decides that because it's his rod, it's his fish. And I'm like, no, dude, I caught the fish. It's my fish. So we're kids arguing about the fish, and it's a good moment. It's a good, happy moment. But just as Mama clicks and takes the picture, Donor hand comes in the frame, and it's kind of comical, but it sums up our life. And it catches his hand right before it's about to hit me right on the side of the head. And I'm telling you, whenever it's not just, I've popped you upside the head once or twice before, but nothing serious. I mean, whenever he hits you with all of his force. So it was
And you're like what age at this time?
Oh, at this time, elementary, 3rd, 4th grade.
No age is okay, but you're a child.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a baby, but no, I'm telling you, dude, he the guy was strong, big, strong, massive hands. He works with his hands all the time. He hits you, you've been hit. There was no question about it. So we lived in an abusive household. Fortunate after time, Mama decides she's had enough. She leaves him. We come back to Georgia, and this is where the abandonment part comes into place. And I need to explain something, because for a long time I was angry with myself, and I didn't realize until I was in mid-20s, 30 years old, what was going on. Even after all that happened, I still wanted that relationship. I still wanted a father. No matter how mean he was, no matter how scared we were of him, I still wanted that father. And I couldn't figure it out as I was growing up. But Grandma and Poppy, Jonathan's grandmother and grandfather, they were foster parents before we had kids. And in order for us to become foster parents, or in order for us to help them, babysit, do whatever with the foster kids that was in their household, we had to take foster classes also. And I'll never forget in one of these classes that they taught us that it is a normal behavior for a child to want their parents no matter what. It's, and they brace us for that. And no matter what they've been through. And the unfortunate with foster kids, there's some foster kids, they've been through a lot. I mean, I had a rough life, but I can name a couple that's had their stories is worse, unfortunately. I mean, it's sad that you can do that. I can say that. But they still wanted that father. They still wanted their mother. So Mom picks us up. We come back to Georgia where she has family. She has support. She has help, which is great. And so we come here. I start high school, and in high school I start sports. I'm a big kid. I mean, my whole life I've always been big. I've had facial hair since I was probably 3 years old. I mean, but I love sports. I love working out. I still do it. It's the best therapy that I can get. Well, in school, I was able to play football. I played football, wrestled, and did track. I threw shot and disc, and I ran the hurdles of all things in track. But and with that, we had a coach there that was an amazing coach. That he was a good figure. He was a good role model during school, for everyone. And but I'm fortunate, and that kept me out of trouble. That kept me where, my conduct grades were good. I did everything I could possibly do, to try to be a good student, to make certain I'm representing my team well, because that was something that the coaches asked us to do. But the Georgia decided that if you can't pass your class, you can't play sports. No matter what your conduct grade is, if you have a failing grade, you can't play sports, which for me was impossible. My whole life, I have struggled with a learning disability. I mean, even today, I don't read well. I definitely don't spell well. I try, I've always had, but it's just, for whatever reason, it's just the way I'm wired. It just doesn't happen. And back then, they didn't have the help for you. Their help for me back then was to put me one hour a day. They would put me in a special education classroom and with severe special needs students. Right. I'm in a classroom that I can go to sleep in. I mean, that's really all it was, because they didn't have a tutor in there to help me. They didn't know. Unfortunately, I'm not blaming the school system. Unfortunately, they just didn't know how to deal with the situation that I had. And what's crazy is I know other people, that has it in my family, but it is what it is. But so I'm not allowed to play sports at all. And because I'm not playing sports, that one positive role model that I had in school, Fair, he's focused on all the other student or athletes that he has. He doesn't have time for me. I totally get that as an adult. I get that now. Back then I didn't. So my only choice at that time was, screw it then. And that's, so on top of not having a father, and at this time I'm wanting that relationship. I'm wanting a father. I'm wanting, a man in my life that's going to be there for me. I know somebody's got my back, and I didn't have that. So my only option at that time was just, screw it. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, drugs, alcohol, you name it. I mean, you go to any school out there, you can be high before the first class, no problem. It's real easy, and especially back then, it was real easy to get drugs.
And
I mean,
and what age are you at this time?
the first time I got high, I was 6th grade. So yeah.
So that's like 11.
Yeah. First time I was in a bar, I was 15. Now back then,
that's a different. Yeah, it's a
back
different
then,
time.
drinking age was 18.
Yeah.
So I look older. I'll never forget. I don't want to brag about it. I truly don't want to brag about it. But my cousins, they called me up. I stole my mom's car, and they were too drunk to drive home. So I stole mom's car and I drove to Dudley's on Old National, and they knew the head waitress, and I got right on in. So from that point forward, if I wanted to go to a bar, it wasn't a problem. So no, I mean,
that's
I
like
started,
8th grade.
Yes.
15's like 8th grade, 9th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, because that night I was there, there was two coaches in there. It was a weeknight. It was a school night. So I had two coaches in there questioning, why am I here? So I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at the girls they're with. I'm thinking, they ain't your wife.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's a whole other. Yeah.
So like, you don't
You're
tell,
like, I
don't
could be
tell.
asking you the same question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So in a nutshell, drug and alcohol became a good friend. Unfortunate, too good. I had several run-ins with the law, and by the time I was 17 years old, I was an alcoholic. So, and I mean, full-fledged alcoholic. And I mean, they say pot's not addictive. It is. Pot may not be addictive. That feeling you get, that's addictive. So,
especially when you're so young and you don't have any like control.
Oh yeah. Well, and you're trying to fill a void.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a numb that you can't describe, but it's a numb that gets you through the moment. And that time, unfortunately, my mom's working her butt off. I mean, she is doing everything she can do to raise three hard-headed boys. Three boys that's been through hell.
Yeah.
And with herself also. So, I mean, it wasn't easy. It wasn't a pretty picture for her. She kept us in church. She kept us in, Wednesday nights at church was great because back then they used to cook dinner, and it was a great dinner. But guess what? You have a little friend in the back pocket. After that dinner, you just step out back, smoke your little smoke, and then go to church.
At church, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Goodness. Yeah. So like, not to stop you or anything, but just want to give a disclaimer to our listeners. If you haven't noticed, we're 30 minutes in right now. If you've never listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, you're about doing right now. Like this is going to be, and like, but like, and Tucker and I've already talked, we're totally okay with this. And man, I'm realizing that each question could be a podcast. And so I just want to like summarize what you've talked about so far. Is you talked about your childhood was fear and abandonment. And I think the picture that you painted with the story of your dad beating your brother and you and your brother in another room being afraid. And then as soon as it was over, everyone go to your room, abandonment. And that's just what the day-to-day life was with you. And no, you were not promoting drugs and alcohol, but you were saying how like you had to fill a void and this is what you went to. And so like you went to these things because you didn't have that father figure. And oh my gosh, like you hear these stats about how if a male, especially a male, does not have a father figure in their life, the road they go down. And as a teacher, at my middle school that I teach at, we have that same rule is applied to my middle school. And I'll be honest, like I thought, you know what, that's a fair rule. But then hearing your story, I'm like, you know what, like maybe there should be like a bullet point underneath that rule that's like an exception for like some kids, because that was your way to like, man, can you imagine if you were able to do that and you were able to have that thing, you may not have been like perfect angel after that, but that could have guided you, and so sports definitely has.
For sure. And that is crazy how much trouble a kid can get into in a short amount of time. But in that shorter amount of time, the positivity that I had, teaching me the skills of getting out there and trying to become better. Just having somebody to encourage you, hey man, what a great job, get out there, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Sports is more about there's so many building points that an athlete, guys and girls, gain coming off of a playing field court. Whatever sport you choose to play, it builds you in such a positive way. There's more positive. I mean, I heard it said before that a coachable kid. I had a buddy of mine used to say this all the time. A coachable kid is going to be pretty much a great employee.
Yeah.
Because they can take criticism. They can take what seemed like a negative criticism and turn it into a positive criticism. I mean, you learn how to improve yourself without having to make somebody else stand behind you and make certain that you're trying to improve yourself. Because as a coach, a little league coach, that I'm coaching little league ball. You can step on the field and you can look at the kids that are practicing once they go home, and you can tell the kids that don't. Real simple. So, and those are the ones that they got that drive. They want to improve themselves, and they're going to go further because of that. So sports is a great tools for kids that doesn't have, the father figure or a good positive role model.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact percentage, but I'm pretty sure the majority of Fortune 500 CEOs were an athlete before they were in that position.
Yeah,
cool.
So there is like great benefit to playing sports, especially when you've been through something like what you're describing, Craig. I mean, you talk about filling that void once sports was taken away with drugs and alcohol. I think there's different ways to fill that void, right? There's positive, healthy habits that you can try and fill that void with, and there's negative habits that seem positive in the moment that you can fill it with. And yeah, sports just, Johnny and I obviously have talked about it before, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but sports are a wealth of free education. If you can put your kids in it, or if you have experienced it, it's definitely worth it. But Craig, I want to just ask, because you mentioned that your mom was still taking you and your brothers to church and working as hard as she was. And I'm curious, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that might listen to this who have a very estranged relationship with God because of an estranged relationship with their father. And so would you mind describing for you at that age going to church, how did what your father did impact your view of who God was? And be completely honest. Don't hold back.
No, I will be. That's something that, there's a positive in everything. I'll share the negative right now, but there's a positive in every negative. And I've told Jonathan this, there's a positive. It's hard to see it. Sometimes you don't see until years later. But now I fought a demon. For years. And I'm telling you, if you don't believe in spiritual warfare, I'll have a one-on-one talk with you. It's real. That demon, he knew how to get in your head. He knew how to play me. So, and it was all about doubt. So the question, like, why is God letting you go through all this? Why is God allowing you to have these struggles? Or the other question is, God really loves you.
Take your time, Craig.
Whenever your own dad doesn't love you, does God love you? That is something that I heard in my head for years. I mean, it was tough, but it is a tool that Satan used extremely well. And I played the game, dude. I mean, I went to church. I knew how to play the game. We grew up in a time of John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, of all people. It's my generation. You don't talk. You don't discuss. You take a hit, you shake it off, get your ass back out there and play. I mean, it was, that's the way it was. You didn't have accountability partners. You didn't have somebody you can really go to and cry to and ask for help. So you learn to fake it. You learn to fake it till you make it. So, and that's what I did for a long time. I mean, It's tough. I mean, it is. But I do know that I've learned how to beat that demon. So, I mean, another thing, he just didn't use that. I shared with you early on that, my learning disability. Do you know how embarrassing that is? That you can't read, you can't write. And I work in a profession where I'm working with architects and engineers. I mean, these guys are smart. They're book smart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not book smart. So, but
you went to the school of hard knocks though,
I
that
did.
Counts for something.
Oh yeah. But Satan will take things that you think is a weakness, and he'll just keep grinding that on you. That after time you're gonna learn that weakness isn't such a weakness after all. You kept listening to the wrong voice in your head, and that's what I was doing. Yes, if I'd had a positive father figure in the household, would my learning disability be any different? No. That's just the way I am. But would everything else be easier? Yeah, it would have. But I'll tell you this, and I've said it 100 times over again, that my positive. It took me years to see the positive. But the positive is the life that I have now, and even the life that I started having at the age of 17. I told you, I was an alcoholic by 17. I started dating probably the prettiest girl in East Point. She was homecoming queen, everything else. She was a good girl until she started dating me. But she pretty much told me, if you're going to date me, you're going to stop all this. I mean, she liked the bad boy figure, but then after a time, I was like, no, nuh-uh. She started to make sure I was going to church, and she kept getting me, and she was showing me that love that I was looking for, in my own father.
For the record, this is my mom.
This is your mama. That's correct.
I was wondering. I was like,
one and only.
No, is this Michelle?
Yeah, this is my mom, by the way.
That is correct. No, nuh-uh. She was able to replace the drugs and alcohol. So that's what saved me. God only knows, man. I'm telling you, dude. 17 years old, I was burning my candles. I even had an adult tell me one time that I was burning my candles at both ends of the stick, and that he hoped to God that I wasn't there whenever they finally burn out. So, I mean, fight, drink, did whatever I could do, I would do. So, but now my positive is, look at the life I got today. Look at the people that, because of my hardship, I mean, I've got so many different stories that I've been able to reach out to different guys and talk to. That if I hadn't have been through the hell that I've gone through, I wouldn't understand where they're at in their life, and so that's a blessing. I wouldn't have Jonathan. I wouldn't have my daughters. I wouldn't have, there's so much greater that's come out of that than the negative. So, and if that, I learned if that negative is what is a tool that I can use to reach other guys, I'm fine with it. So
yeah, and I want to elaborate that is that, I mean, obviously, you shared some pretty heavy things with your childhood, but it still probably was just the surface. And but because you just gave a bird's eye view from early childhood up until the end of high school. So with this transition that you just said, as you became a father, right, to me and my sisters, I can't imagine that experience that it was on you, talking about fighting your demons, having those thoughts in the back of your head. How did that, based off your childhood, influence your approach to parenting?
I was scared to death.
Understandably so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But you know what? I was looking at it wrong at the beginning. Yeah. Donor wasn't a great father, but he taught me something very valuable. He taught me how not to be a father.
Mm.
So, and I knew that if I was the man, if I was just to try to be half the man that I wanted, I'd be pretty damn good. So, and that's all that mattered. You know, it was, I told myself just to give them the love and the attention that you wanted. And that made it a lot easier. I was still nervous. I mean, there's other responsibilities, you know, that comes into play. But looking at it at that angle, that made it a whole lot easier. So it truly did.
Well, and then like, I mean, let's just like clear the dirty, like or clean out our dirty laundry. That's definitely not a phrase. I just made it up. But like
air out.
Thank you.
See,
Tucker's my translator, by the way, if no one's ever noticed.
He gets it from me, buddy.
Yeah. But I mean, Dad, like, you know, in high school, you and I butted heads, you know, and so like we went through that rough patch in high school, nowhere close to how your childhood was. But then you were the best man at my wedding, not because I didn't want to offend anybody, because you truly are my best friend. And so like, you know, and I didn't realize high school, I guess, until I heard more of your story. And I was like, man, this guy is trying his best to learn, and he's going through back and forth with it. And so, listen, you're incredible, Dad. You're the best man at my wedding. Gave an amazing speech, by the way. Okay,
Yeah,
I was the first time I ever heard you give a speech. Blew me out of the water. But yeah, so like, I mean, just because you have a crappy dad growing up does not mean that you can't change that, and you're proof of that, you know?
Right.
And so like, I just want to like tell you that here is that like, you're a great dad.
Yeah. And I'll say, as a third party witnessing y'all's relationship, it's been just really cool to see. I remember being on Johnny's bachelor weekend, and we were talking about, like, you know, getting married as one does on a bachelor weekend. Yeah. And just the fact that like y'all were having that conversation, father and son, I was like, wow, they have such a close relationship to be able to talk about things that most father-son combos would never talk about.
And you were there. I mean, like at the bachelor party, like
you were there.
Most dads don't come, so like you were there, and I wanted you there.
It was a true honor that, you know, that you allowed me to be part of that. I mean, it's an honor that you're allowing me to be on today, but how much we do get to share. I mean, but you make it easy. I mean, you've always been a great son.
I didn't at first.
You know, it's part of life.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, every guy goes through, you know, I'm not going to say that just because you have a great father doesn't mean you have you and your dad doesn't butt heads.
Right.
You're going to butt heads. I mean, you're becoming a man. You're learning how to become a man. You're trying to become your own man all at the same time. And, I mean, but also there came a time that I saw that that's what you were doing, you know, and I figured out that, what do I want? Do I want to win this small battle today with you to prove that I'm right and you're wrong? Or do I want to win the war? And that victory is to maintain a relationship with you. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I decided. You know, I don't know if you remember this, but I told you also that we got to figure out a way to make this work. Yeah. I love you too much to allow this to damage our relationship. And I knew that one day you were going to leave, and I knew how you left the house was going to be the foundation of our relationship for the rest of our life. So and we knew that if we let you leave in that angry tone, that we wouldn't have, you know, the times. So we do, man. We truly I'm very fortunate for the relationship we have.
Yeah, like
we look forward to getting together and hanging out. I mean,
oh yeah,
even with Mr. Tennessee
even with a
over there. I
Tennessee
mean,
fan. Well, yeah, no, I mean, you and I like if I don't call you during the week, you call me. So like you and
yeah,
I talk to each other once a week, even though I live in North Carolina, you live in Georgia,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
and I want to keep talking about these relationships that like you don't understand, like people don't understand how much of an impact you can have on a person, and so like
Oh, dude.
not only has this impacted your high school days, it's also impacting how you parent, and now I want to talk about your brothers as well. Is
Good.
that I mean, like I remember very vividly, you know, us being on our redneck beach. I'm not going to say the beach name, but our redneck beach, and you getting a phone call that your brother was diagnosed with cancer. I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But that, was a shift in the moment with you two. And so you and him, I mean, I think going through hell does not even describe it. Went through. How did him finding out he's diagnosed with cancer and, beating cancer, thankfully, but during that moment, how did that change your perspective, on life?
Well, that's a different conversation with life, but my relationship.
Or just with
Well,
him, yeah.
yeah. Well, you always love to say, let's do the backstory.
Let's just back.
The backstory is all three of us went through our own hell. All three of us has our own demons. The three being my older brother and my younger brother. My older brother, he had a couple demons that he was dealing with, and unfortunately, fortunately, because there was a blessing that came out of it, he was a father by the 11th grade, I think it was. Yeah, yeah, and just as any marriage of that age, it didn't make it. But the blessing, the positive that came out of that is the daughter that he has, the niece that we have. I mean, she's a beautiful young lady. I mean, the blessing that she brought in to our life as we're coming out of such of a dark time in our life was like a gift from God.
Mm.
So, but I mean, she was. I mean, especially for me, for my mom. I mean, it was. She was truly a gift. She truly is a gift. Uh, but through the hard times and through him fighting with his own demons, I mean, he had some serious ones. I mean, he was the oldest, and he probably took the brunt of the abuse. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's nobody deserved what he got on that just that one day. Uh, but my uncle convinced him that he needed to our family being in the Navy to help shape him up and to help get his life straightened out. He needed to join the Navy, and so through advice of not just one uncle but two uncles, he joined the Navy. And with that, he got shipped off to California. And so here I am, we're kids, we're trying to figure out life. Your mom and I are dating, we're getting married, but he's stationed in California. So there's a long distance that we spent that we didn't, you didn't have Nextel. Where'd that come from? You didn't have cell phones. You
Right.
couldn't text, it wasn't as easy as it is today, to communicate. So with distance, and it's mind blowing how quick time flies. I mean, it truly is. So, but really, just y'all said it best so many times. To be a good friend, you gotta be intentional. To be there for somebody, you gotta be intentional. We were never intentional. We didn't know to be intentional. I mean, it's just not an environment that we were raised in. I mean, it's you talk whenever you're in front of each other. But 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 he got married whenever he was in California, and had two boys out there. They came back to Georgia for a short time, and those guys, man, they've grown into such great young men. I mean, it's again the blessings that we've received so far outweighs the hell that we went through. But he's a grandfather. I mean, there's a lot of great things that are starting to shift, starting to happen, for him. But whenever he had his cancer, you know, we've been texting a little bit more than what it used to be. You get a phone call Christmas, Easter, and stuff like that. But we started communicating a little bit more than typical. But then after that, we became intentional. So, but then if you recall, not long after that, I had my heart attack. So, because he was finishing his rehab or his radiation, all that, Mama was out in Idaho visiting with him. And then
that was a crazy time with our family.
Yeah. So we learned really quick that we need to make sure we're staying in touch with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so great. During football season, we're great. Every football game, we're texting each other.
Texting each other.
That's one of the things I love about football.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It keeps you in touch with
guys
people
together so well.
Yeah.
I mean, even with my group of friends, I mean, we probably hang out more during football season than we do any other time of year.
Yeah.
So, but I'm so grateful of the relationship that we have now and how we have become intentional to make certain that we are reaching out to each other and checking on each other. And actually, I mean, he's helped me come through this, and I think I've helped him. We've been able to talk to each other.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy how much you forget and how much you can tuck away, and then how something can reveal itself so quickly. So so that was being there for each other was helpful. And I don't think he realizes, how he's helped me. So, but he has. So,
that's awesome. He will now on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a listener.
Yeah.
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 And, to your point about sports earlier, Craig, I think, the reason why locker rooms get so tight is because they just go through crap together.
Oh, yeah.
They face adversity together. They face challenges. They face, all kinds of stuff together. And it actually strengthens these bonds. And I think one thing we're, picking up on, at least a theme in your story, is going through this really difficult circumstance that no human should ever have to go through in your life has in so many ways strengthened relationships with others because you both went through it together, with your brothers, I'm sure with your mom, and even with, Johnny, your own son. Because of what you went through, y'all's relationship is so close. And I'm just so far, where we're at in this conversation, you are just, I think, providing such hope to people who maybe they're in the thick of it right now. And your perspective on all this is just really blowing me away, because the amount of times you've said there's always a positive from a negative, or the blessings far outweigh the hell we went through when we were kids.
It does.
You're constantly focused on the positive. And I think that's so huge, because what we tend to focus on or think longer on tends to continue manifesting itself in our lives. So if you were to just stay focused on what happened when you were a kid and the hell you went through, and, turning to those unhelpful habits when you were in high school, if that would have stayed a part of your life, who knows where you'd be right now, or if you would have this perspective that you have. But because you've been able to train your mind to look for the positive, to look for the silver lining, and then focus on that, it's just really cool to hear that from somebody who's been through some real stuff.
I appreciate that.
Because I think a lot of people hear oh yeah, just think positive thoughts, and they're like, okay, well, you don't know what I've gone through, you don't know what I'm experiencing. But
words are easy. It's living it is different, and like I said, it's taken me years to see some positive. It really has, but it's there. I use the word a lot, and Jonathan laughs at me a lot. Opportunities. If I'm having a day, I got a day full of opportunities. It's just, it could be a bad day or it's an opportunity. you know, you have a decision to make. You know, you going to let what's going on, you know, control your day, or you going to fix it? You going to figure out how to fix it and make it better?
Yeah. And I know we're already an hour in, but I got to say two things before we continue with our next questions is that the show 1923, I like binge watched it in like 2 days, but there's a quote in there where like these people are going to get on this boat and the captain says like, are you ready for this? And the girl says, I'm a lot tougher than I look. And then the captain says, well, now that I'm getting older, I look tougher than I am. And so like, and I say that to say is I can't believe that we're an hour into this podcast and we haven't recognized this glorious beard that you have. And so, I mean, you look like a Viking, you know?
Yeah.
You should start braiding it.
I know. Oh, you should braid it.
It's
You
not
know.
there yet.
Okay, but I'm saying is, I mean, you're sitting down, but you're over 6 feet tall. You're a very intimidating man, you know, and you're very strong. And so, like, it looks like you got your crap together. You're strong. You look like as tough as nails, but like, it does not mean that you still have some like crap you're going through, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I mean, no, it's tough guys. They're tough for a reason.
yeah,
You know, so a lot of them, they're covering stuff up.
right.
Remember, we come from the days of John Wayne. I mean, it's, come on, Pilgrim. You know, fall off that horse, you get shot, you get back up.
Yeah,
You
I love
know?
that quote. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say Wyatt Earp is a better cowboy, but we won't get into that. But
Wyatt Earp was a wussy.
do that to me. No, I love that quote. But like, and to continue on with talking about your brother, I want to now talk about your friends. You know, because like, it's not like mom always says there's no such thing as a coincidence, right? And the fact that like the friend group that you've had since I was a child, you know, the fact that almost all of them have messed up dads or no dads, you know, and
We all do.
yeah, right. And so like, but it's just crazy that like your entire friend group, it's like there's not one person in there who doesn't have a messed up dad or no dad in their life. And so I want to like, you know, camp out on that for a few seconds. Is one, like, why do you think that's so common? Why is that so common for that to be a thing? And then two, how has that affected your friend group and your friends?
It is a joke that we laugh about quite often. And I'm glad I have the friends that I have and that we can laugh about it. We're just a bunch of misfit kids. I mean, but we do joke about it. We've all have struggled with our own demon. And you know, but really it goes beyond the friend group. You know, I've got some great guys. I got some really good buddies in my life that are great dads. I mean, really, really good fathers. You know, and they've dealt with their situation the way they felt best to deal with it. But if you take time to sit back and look at the world that we're in today, just how jacked up a lot of our fathers are. It's anywhere from you grow up and you realize that the man that you idol for so long is not the man that you thought he was. You know, he's a fake. To mom babysit for a family years ago whenever she was putting herself through college. We were dating at the time. And this is sad, but this is a true story. The father was a pilot. The mom's a flight attendant. Mom wanted kids badly. Father didn't. He agreed to have kids, but the agreement was he would have nothing to do with them. And mom's job, because the lady was a flight attendant, she would work, 4 or 5 days out of the month. She would take and work 5 days and she would be off for the rest of the month. But her job was to go over there.
My mom's job.
Yeah, no. The mother of these two boys that she babysit for.
Yeah, no, like mom babysit for them is what you're saying.
Yes,
yeah.
So while the mom was away, and if the father was at home during that time, because he was a pilot, sometimes he would be there, sometimes he wouldn't. The kids knew not to go to him. If they were to go to him and ask him a question, he'd just continue reading the paper. Wouldn't have anything to do with it. I mean, it was the craziest thing that I've ever seen. and I blame both parties. I blame the mom and the dad for that relationship. Parents wanting, it's more important to climb that corporate ladder. I had a buddy of mine at one time that he had 3 kids, and he worked his butt off, hard worker, good guy. I mean, he provided for his family. They had every name brand clothing, everything. I mean, they had a good life. But he wouldn't have anything to do with those kids. In his mind, his job as a father was to provide them with all the good stuff. And I've asked him, and I called him out. We got to argue. It was to the point, I'm done with you. I don't want to be your friend anymore. But I've asked him. There was a couple of years that went by, and I asked him, hey, well, what was your boy for Halloween? What did he dress up as? Because I knew. He couldn't tell me. He could care less. That's a waste of time. But it's there's dads out there that cheating on the moms left and right all the time, and just the division that brings in the family. There's dads out there that just screws up and they don't know how to make it right, and they're not willing to make it right. There's just so many scenarios out there. Coaching Little League ball, it got sad towards the end how many grandparents I would have on my team that are raising their kids. And that's the problem that I see. Yeah, my buddies and I, we joke about it, we laugh about it, we're able to. We worked it out. But it's just becoming a problem today that just across the board of just how many deadbeat dads there are out there. It's almost as if you're fortunate that your mom or dad are still together, and that you have a dad that cares about you as want to. And I'm not patting myself on the back at all, but it's a joy to me to be a father. But and I don't
understand. It should be.
It should, but I don't understand all these other dads out there that are just walking away from such a great time. But anyhow, I mean,
no, that was good. Don't say anyhow. That was great. I mean,
yeah.
And
I mean, like, for me, hold on, let me plug my headphones back in. I got too excited, Craig. For me, having a dad who was always there. I mean, like he coached a lot of my teams. He was at every game, like he was around. He didn't, like, we spent a lot of time together growing up, and still to this day have a great relationship and spend a good bit of time together. And hearing that story that you told about, the family that Michelle babysat for, like, it's hard for my mind to even wrap around that is real, and and hearing like what your dad did, it's I feel like for a lot of people who haven't been through that, it's so out of sight, out of mind that we forget that it's a real prevalent problem.
Yeah.
And so, like, you and your group of friends all have that experience. You all know that that's out there more than we hear and more than people realize. But I would say for the majority of people, and probably the majority of our listeners, it's just like we don't even know that that's going on or think about that going on. And like, Craig, I appreciate you bringing this up, because I think it is a huge reason why God led Johnny and I to start this podcast, because being a great dad starts before you even find out that your significant other or spouse is pregnant. It starts way before that.
True.
Yeah.
And so, what Johnny and I hope we can help guys do is realize, like, you start preparing to be a dad well before you ever have the ability to start having kids, or, even enter into a relationship. Like, it starts so much sooner. And so if we can find ways to help guys prioritize just personal development and growth and learning from their mistakes and being able to find a silver lining and have the right attitude, and like, all of that is going to pave the way, in their teens or 20s for when they have their own kids, they're going to be shaped and formed by that time in their life to a point where no one knows how to be a dad before they get into it. Well, so you go in unprepared, but the more you focus on developing as a man and being the best version of yourself you can be, that's going to make you a better dad. And, you know, Johnny and I and you, Craig, all believe that the best preparation for being a dad, or if you want to be the best type of dad, try and become like Jesus as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And if we can help guys see that, help guys see practical ways that they can take steps in that area, then we'll start seeing better dads and less of these deadbeat dads who don't care about their kids, who don't want to spend time with them, who don't love them and care for them. Because to your point, you can make all the money in the world and still have a ton of regret on your deathbed because you got kids that you don't talk to anymore. And I know guys like this in my dad's life too. So, you know, it's not, I know that there's guys out here like this who have estranged relationships with their kids and they just keep on living life like nothing's wrong. But when they get on those last days, I don't think they're going to be regretting that they didn't try and make more money. I think they're going to regret the time that they squandered with their kids.
Oh, very true. Yeah, yeah. Well, what is it? And I know y'all be able to fill this in. I've heard it said so many times before. Is that dash in between, you know, on your tombstone, from the time you were born, the time, you know, your death date? How did you feel that dash? How do you want to be known? You know, I'd much rather be known as a good guy, a good father, great husband, than he was successful at work.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to leave a legacy. You know, but not. I mean, everybody's different. So, but no, start putting others first. And I mean, if you're not a dad yet, start putting others first now. Start volunteering, start helping, and then it's going to start taking the focus off of you. And that's what's wrong with a lot of guys today. They feel like our generation, we make fun of the kids that they're entitled. But if you go back and you look at all these dads that are doing all they're doing, they feel like they're entitled. I'm working. I deserve to be able to do that. You know, you're not giving me what I want, so I should be able to go next door, you know, and get what I want. I mean, stop putting yourself first and start putting others first.
Preach.
So, I mean, you talking about trying to be like Jesus.
No, exactly.
That's
a great first step.
So start.
And to your point, right? Like, there's so many guys out here who have horrible father figures, like young kids who are, we talked about the age that you're going through, what you're going through. There's so many kids out there with that story who need a good, positive mentor or figure in their life. And for you, you know, that was a coach, but you can be that for somebody without being a dad. That could be your way of taking that first step of putting others first, to saying, hey, I don't have any kids on this, you know, youth football team, but I want to volunteer my time to go coach them because I know there's probably kids on this team who need a mentor. Yeah. And I truly think, and Johnny and I, you know, we've talked about this personally, but it's one of our pet peeves, just how many bad coaches there are in youth sports who care more about winning than they do about developing these kids into the men they need to be. And so to fix that, one of the things we should be doing as guys is stepping into those roles and trying to be a positive role model and showing we care for these kids who may not get that at home. And, you know, Johnny was a middle school coach this year. I've done it in the past. And there truly are, you know, the kids that have a bad home life.
Oh, you do.
Football is an escape for them.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's so easy to tell, and it breaks your heart. But then at the same time, you're like, well, I'm thankful they have this. So let's make this a safe, loving space where they want to come to work every day and get better.
That small time, if you really look at it, you spend in just regular rec sports, rec ball, tops, you may have 4 hours out of the week that you spend with kids. You know, it's practices, you know, typically 2 to 3 days a week, and it's maxed out at an hour and a half. a practice, depending on what sports you're doing and the location you're doing it in. So it's really not taking a lot of your time to get ready for it. Yeah, there's some legwork you got to do, contacting parents and stuff like that. But heck, in today's time where you can do it on a computer real quick, you can put everybody in there, that's quick. Schedule out practice. You schedule out one practice and that just becomes your rotation. That's what you do. I mean, it's not hard. So, and I mean, what you get out of it personally is pretty awesome. So, I mean, I truly enjoy my time as being a coach. I mean, it is a lot of fun. So
I think I enjoyed coaching more than I enjoyed playing.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. But because to watch that kid that you've been working with,
yes,
make contact with a ball, knowing how hard they've been struggling, that's a great feeling. That is an amazing feeling. I mean, I don't know who's happier whenever that happens, you or the kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's,
absolutely.
Yeah. So get out and before you become a parent, get out a little bit, volunteer some. So, and the reward that you would get, I guarantee it will outweigh the sacrifice that you made in doing so.
Yeah. And there's other ways too, outside of just sports, but as a former student pastor, if you go to a church, I guarantee you your student pastor is looking for volunteers to help lead small groups and to, do all the things. And that is an amazing way you can have an impact on younger guys, is just giving them someone to look up to and to help walk them through, learning spiritual disciplines that will help shape them into a great father one day, and that will usher them into the presence of Jesus, which will change them to be more like Jesus. So that's another way. And, we always try and give practical steps you can take. So you've heard what Craig shared, you've heard his heart, but, you're probably wondering like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? So we're just trying to give you some practical things. But Craig, one more question for you, unless any others pop into our head. But for those guys who, similar to your friends, who grew up without a dad or just had an estranged relationship with their father, what advice would you give to someone who's in that situation as when it comes to like them thinking about being a dad themselves?
For this question, it's not just one thing, and really all I can do is share with you what helped with me. What I did for me to help me. And I think one of the biggest thing is, we were going to a church in a different city in Peachtree City, just right down the road. And it was it is an amazing church, amazing pastor. We had great friends, great connection there, but it just wasn't in our community. And we knew we wanted to get y'all in a church that was y'all can grow up in. And you have friends within your community that you're doing life with. And I remember really clear, like the second sermon that I sat in with this pastor. He's a young pastor, and he's gone through, some challenge. He had a rough childhood as well, so we kind of connected. But I remember whenever he was talking about this, and really he didn't share anything biblical about it. I never recall past this that he shared. Y'all might be able to bat one off your head, but I can't. But he let us know that, hey, look, whenever you're going through stuff like this, you have a choice. You can either choose to allow this hardship to continue to control you, to continue to weigh you down, and just keep you feeling like you're not worthy, or whatever that demon is that's connected with that. You have a choice to keep listening to it, or you have a choice to break the chain, stop it. Figure out a way not to do that anymore. And it sounds stupid, but but it really helped me to realize, I'm done. I'm not going to allow donor that I don't even have a relationship with, hadn't seen in forever, to keep creating havoc in my life. So that helped me realize that I've got the power to do that. And so that was the first step that I did. And then later on in life, doing everything. If there's a group at church, I'm involved in it. I'm helping out. I'm doing whatever. Leading a Bible study group at my house. I mean, you remember all that. But I was still struggling. I was still fighting. That demon of doubt was still there. I was still struggling with him. He's still laughing at me. We have our Bible study group every Sunday. And 30 minutes before our group would start, that old guy, he was the first one to walk in the room, laughing at me. These guys are from college. They went to school. You think you're going to teach them the Bible? But I remember just going, all of a sudden, just the hate, the anger that I started going through. And a lot of anger. And and I'm certain you remember it because I put everybody through it. I wasn't fun to be around. But I remember at church one day, pastor made a comment and I laughed in my head. And I started an argument with God. And really, I work on a construction site. I grew up, cussing is in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
So God and I had a cussing match. Just tired of it, dude. Why in the hell are you allowing this to take place? I'm crying out like I've never done before. And I'm truly, I think it was the first time I honestly shared my heart with God. Honestly, I've done all the biblical prayers. I prayed in church. I've done all of that. But to really, God knows your heart. He knows what you're going through. But to speak it, that was the first time I ever did it. And I remember, real quick, he come back and kind of laughed at me and said, I didn't ask you to do all this. I'm following what man's thinking we should be doing. You're not doing what. You're in church. You're doing all this stuff. It's great. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So, but I remember that really clear, that I'm the one that changed. He didn't change me. And just, I know it sounds crazy, but just that arguing with God, crying out to him for the first time, how freeing to me that was. It really, it helped. It helped me a lot. But it was honestly the first time I really broke down and shared my heart with him.
Can you elaborate? Real quick, can you elaborate more when you said, I'm the one who changed, he didn't change me? Can you explain more what that means?
That I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I was trying to fit that mold and trying to fit that image of what a good Christian guy should look like. And I was living a fake life. I wasn't me. So, and since then I've learned, this is, I had a guy come up to me, at work. This is several months ago. He's a big Christian. He's a member of one of the big churches in Fayette County. And he told me, he said, if you don't mind, he said, I would love to sit down, have a cup of coffee with you, and just, I want to hear your story. He said, you can be cussing somebody out at 1 minute, and then I walk back by and you're sharing the gospel with the guy right afterwards.
You're like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. And well, this is, y'all love this. I told him, I said, well, I won't do a coffee with you, but I'd love to sit down and drink a beer with you.
Amen.
So, and he's like, no. And I told him, I said, I grew up rough. I work in a rough environment. It's something that, I have learned that there's certain guys, man, you've got to connect with them where they're at. You're not going to, you go to a construction worker and you try to be all sweet, please, can I get you to do this? Thank you. They're going to laugh at you. That's a sign of weakness. And there's certain environments of people, you just got to, all right, you got to get all John Wayne on them. You got, you got to get out there and talk to them. And I wasn't doing that, and I wasn't connecting with guys. But then whenever I started being me, who I am, the connections and the doors that I was opening up and the opportunities to talk to guys, it was amazing. And how that's impacted my life, it has been crazy. I said what, I share a story with Jonathan, and I wasn't going to share the story, but God takes everybody. There's so many different type of people. I mean, you look at, we got hippies, we got cowboys, we got rednecks, we got hoods. I mean, you look at all the different type of peoples that there are out there. I mean, you've got tree huggers. The world is filled with a bunch of different type of people.
Just go ahead and offend everybody.
What's that?
Yeah, as long as you offend everyone, it's okay.
I'm trying to offend everybody. That's me. That's who I am.
Hey, you're being authentic.
You're being authentic. That.
Yeah. But so God's taking everybody, and He's trying to put you in that group. So He knew that I wasn't fitting in with the college boys, and that's what I was trying to do. But He knew I can connect more with what I call my people,
Yeah.
but, and I have, and because of what I've been through, I'm able to reach out to these guys. Yeah, I might cuss them out 1 minute, but then they're going to talk to me because I had a situation before. I had an electrician, that amazing electrician, really good electrician, but he was going through some funk. Nobody could figure out what he was going through. They brought him on my job site, and they told him in front of me that, look, this is your last chance. And they told me, Craig, if you don't like him, you let me know. He's gone. We're tired of him. He keeps getting run off of every job he goes to. Good electrician, but we can't figure out what's going on. So I told him, I said, look, here's my schedule. Here's my game plan. Here's my plan of action. This is what I need to do. Help me help you. Tell me what you're looking for. Let's see what's going on. Well, we're communicating, we're talking, and I'm thinking, oh, man, this guy is an amazing electrician, amazing worker. I mean, from the time he walks on that job site until the time he leaves, he's organized and he's moving forward, and we've got everything rolling. I mean, and in construction, nothing's perfect. You're always going to have, something that goes wrong. You got to have what I call, forgive me, what I call the oh shit plan. Because whenever something falls apart, you've got to have some place. You've got guys standing around. You got to have some place to put them to where they can go to work at. And so I'm sharing with him all that. Well, I'll never forget. This guy comes up to me one day, and he told me, he said, I need to talk to somebody. And then I was like, okay, well, what's wrong? What is going on with you? Well, this is one of those moments that I'm really glad God's able to use me. That he shared, he threw up on me, shared with me that he came home from work one day and found his wife, that she's taken her own life. She killed herself. And again, he had no one to talk to. He buried his wife. He's got 2 kids that he's trying to take care of. And on top of that, the kids are screaming for help. He doesn't know what to do. DFAX is getting involved, and he's about to lose his kids.
Holy cow.
But nobody's asking him what's wrong.
How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing? What's your problem here? I'm thinking, oh my God. And so I call Mom. I'm like, we got to get this guy some help. We get him connected with the church. And he's like, oh, I'm not religious. I don't believe in all that. So that's fine, dude. That's okay. But let's get somebody connected with your family that's going to help you take a breather. So the project was about a 2-year project. But so he allowed his kids to start going to church. We got them connected with the church with an amazing youth group. So they're going. Everything's going good. He has been over backwards working for me. Great guy. And even the project manager come up to me one day. He's like, man, what is going on with him? It's amazing the changes that he's made on this job site. And I laughed at his boss. So I said, well, here's his story. And I shared with him what the guy's been going through, and he was floored. He couldn't believe that guy went through all that and never asked for help. Didn't ask for help at all. But by the end of my job, not only were those kids saved, but he was.
Wow.
So, but, and that's where the little bit of hell that I went through, the hardship that I went through, if that means I'm able to help guys like that, use me. That's where I think God laughed at me, and then just like we'll give people some slack to hang themselves, to prove them wrong or whatever. I think he was giving me some slack. This isn't where I want you to be. You're trying to fit a mold that, you're trying to put the round hole in the square peg, and that's not what I've got you for. And that's where, but once I realized and accepted that, everything else, man, was just so free. So, but then where were we?
No.
Well, I was going to say, real quick, Johnny, if I can try and summarize kind of what you were just saying, it's, that advice you would give to, someone who's experienced a bad relationship with their dad, who's becoming a dad.
Yeah.
If I could try and sum it up in a nutshell, what all you were just saying is, don't feel like you got to be somebody that you're not. Be authentic to who God's created you to be. And we talked about this in our episode where we talked about purpose, but we're not carbon copies of one another. Like, God didn't just clone humans, repeatedly over and over and over again.
Right.
He created each of us in a unique way to represent his image to the world. So for Craig, your unique way that you represent God's image to people is being able to relate to these blue collar guys that you work with in a way that probably me as a pastor coming in wouldn't be able to.
No.
They would probably put up a bunch of walls, and I experienced that when I was in the construction industry. So I totally understand what you're saying. But like, I have my own unique way that God's called me to uniquely represent him in this world. And that's huge for being a dad. Like, you can try and like think you're going to be this type of dad, but it may not be what God's created, the type of dad that God's created you to be.
Yeah.
And so, and so much of what you said in that story is you had to try something for God to reveal that to you. So like you tried the whole Bible study thing, and in that God revealed like, hey, this isn't actually what I have for you. I have this other thing for you. But you had to go through that to learn that.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we talk about a lot is, experiences do so much for allowing you to discover your purpose, discover why you're here, and how God wants to use you. So yeah, Johnny, anything you want to add?
And to echo off Tucker is like what you were saying was when you were doing the Bible study thing, but then when you officially got real with God, that's when you saw a shift. And so don't be fake in this life. You can't fake it till you make it. That's not real.
Right.
And be genuine, but also be genuine with somebody based off that story is that like we cannot do it alone. And so if you want to be a good dad, let's say you've had a crappy dad. If you want to be a good dad, lean on another guy. Like you can't just do it. I mean, yes, you need a good godly woman, quoting Red Clay Strays. But you yes, you do need a good godly woman. However, you do need that buddy that's also in your corner as well. And so you need to be real in life. Like that doesn't matter what you've been through. I hate that people have been through stuff, but you still need to be real and have somebody in your corner, like a dude in your corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's take it a step further. Not every, I can talk to somebody, I'm good. And I use this, I had a heart attack a couple of years ago. It was really kind of frustrating that I had this heart attack, but man, it has really opened up my eyes to how we're different, how everybody is different, how we're wired differently. I'm in bed. I had this heart attack. I'm in decent shape. I work out. I eat decently. There's a guy next door to me. He's had a massive heart attack, just like mine. Same procedures I did, Widowmaker, everything. He's a marathon runner. I mean, this guy, and I've done triathlons. I've done half marathons. I know the routine. I know the training. I know the diet that you've got to be on. So this guy was on a really clean diet. So I'm thinking, he had a heart attack because you think if somebody's having a heart attack, they're just some big fat lazy guy, doesn't eat right. But that's not true. It's just the way you create it. I've got another guy that I know. Man, this guy's obese. I mean, he's huge, lazy. I try my best to get 10,000 steps in a day. If he gets 10,000 steps in a week, I would be floored. I mean, just floored. Eats processed food like crazy, drinks cheap, crazy beer like crazy, but just unhealthy. But if you look at his blood work, man, he is crystal clear. He is clean. So, and then I've got this other guy, a coworker of mine. He's half my size, another fit guy. He's on twice the amount of medication that I'm on. So we're all wired differently. We're all created differently. I can talk to somebody. I can hash things through. I'm fine. There's some people that it takes more than having that buddy to talk to. The next step might be you might need professional help. You might need, a counselor. We talk about sports. I mean, you look at our professional athletes. Whenever their game is down, they've got a counselor they go and talk to. I mean, the league is going to put money into them. They're going to make certain whatever the mistakes that they're making, they're dropping the ball, they're missing the routes, the passes, they're going to have somebody they can talk to clear that head, to keep them going forward. But for us, the John Wayne culture, you're a wimp if you got to do that. Why? We accepted that an athlete might need help, but we're a coward if we got to have help. That's just so backwards. But some people might need a counselor. And then there's a lot of people that needs medication. Again, our body processes differently. Our chemical makeup is different to where you might need some medication. So if you're coming through some type of abuse, there's so many different type of abuse out there, unfortunately. But but you might need some medical help. You might need some professional counseling. Man, I think it's sad that there's so many guys out there that's afraid of what somebody might think about them if they go and ask for help. And they would be willing to continue to go through hell in life just so they look good. They would much rather continue to fake it than to be what I would consider a man, that whenever you need help, you're strong enough to admit, hey, I need help.
Uh-huh.
So, but there's a lot of us, especially my age group, that looks at that wrong. And, and fortunately for y'all, every generation continues to get smarter and smarter, because the stuff that I went through back in the day and anxiety and stuff like that back in the day, that was unheard of. Mm-hmm. But today, hey, we got help for this. You don't have to go through this alone. And there's so many different guys that are just afraid of making that step to go ask for help. Uh-huh. And I would say, crap on that. Go get some help.
Crap on that.
Crap on that.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you just it's so simple, but you pose the question, why are we operating with this? You're a wimp if you need to go get help. I feel like too often we just take things as they are, and we don't ask the question, why is it this way? And I feel like that's what's happened over the years, is people have started challenging that and been like, okay, well, what was the reasoning? Can we grow from that? And I love when you were talking earlier about how, when you spoke to God and just laid it all out there, it just felt like a huge weight off your shoulders.
Oh, and it was. I've talked to Michelle about that, and she saw it as well.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Because the one you love the most is the one you hurt the most.
Yeah.
They see whenever you're hurting, and that's the one you're going to take your anger out on to the most. Yeah. So she saw it firsthand. I mean, I'm not perfect. There's no way, Jonathan can tell you. But when you screw up, man, it's messing up. It's going to happen in life. There's no way you can go through life without messing up. It's how you respond to it. It makes it where it's a big deal or not. Once you mess up, if you mess up and you acknowledge, hey, look, brother, we took a class years ago, a parenting class, Michelle and I, and the title of the class was Growing Kids God's Way. And that was something that I thought was so comical that was taught in that class. But today is probably one of the biggest things I go to. And that is, whenever you're going to mess up. And I've asked Jonathan before for forgiveness. I've got on to you, looking back at it now, I got on to you whenever I shouldn't have. Would you forgive me? That's where you mean relationships. There's no way you can do life together without either pissing each other off or screwing up yourself. It's going to happen. And whenever it does, be the first person, acknowledge it, and make it right. So, I mean, that's how you get, to me, that's more manly than not.
Absolutely. And that's, if you're not authentic with other people, if you're not authentic with God about who you are right this moment, how on earth is he going to get you to where he created you to be if you're faking like you're already there? He can't take you from where you are to where he wants you to be if you don't even acknowledge that you are where you are. And I think that's the step that you took, is you went to God in prayer and you said, hey, here, I'm going to lay it all out there, which we see David do in the Psalms all the time. David did not hold back. He's very blunt with God often in his prayers. And that's how you begin to heal, because then God can say, okay, now I can work with you. Yeah. But if you're trying to be somebody you're not, and you're trying to portray, this sense of you're somebody else, he can't work with that, because he's like, that's not Craig. Right. Once you show me Craig, I'll work on Craig.
Yes.
But until you show me Craig, I can't work with that.
Right.
And I think, with someone who's been through what you've been through, it's like forgiveness for donor. And
Tucker said it.
yeah,
He did.
can be so difficult, and that can be such a barrier in your path as you're trying to become who God made Craig to be. But so since we brought up Red Clay Strays, I wanted to throw in the Red Clay Strays quote. But they have a song called "Forgive," and I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics until this week, but it stood out to me so much. They have one section that says, "It's easy to hold on to the pain you feel. Forgiveness ain't easy, but that's how you heal. Bitterness promises relief through revenge, but love is medicine to make amends." And I think, Craig, through all of this time we've been talking, what we've heard from your story is that love truly is what helped you heal and help you have the perspective that, you have today. You mentioned it with Michelle early on. You've mentioned it as your relationship with God has evolved over the years to, this moment where you just laid it all out to him, and, he met you with love in that moment and said, yeah, I can take those words you're sharing with me. I can take the cussing match, right?
Yeah.
And he just met you where you were at and loved you through it. And that's brought healing to you, and it's enabled you to make amends. And so for our listeners, I just want to say, no matter what you're going through or what type of hell you've experienced in your childhood, there is a God who loves you.
Mm-hmm.
And even if your earthly father has done horrible, evil things to you, there is a God who loves you more than you could ever know, who
Very
has
true.
more compassion and grace and forgiveness for you than any human on earth can extend your way. And once you start to experience that, you can start to heal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can start to heal, in other ways as well. That's not the only way, but I just wanted to weave that in because I think
It's a good start.
Yeah.
it is a great start. It is
Yeah,
a great start.
And to our listeners, we don't know what everyone's going through that's listening to this podcast. It can be, everyone's got different stories that they're going through. And no matter what level it's on, it's real to you and it's heavy to you, no matter what level it's on. And so I hope that this story with my dad has inspired you, has motivated you, is maybe put some questions, some thought-provoking things in your life. And if you need someone to talk to, reach out to us. Or if you know somebody, reach out to them, And so, Dad, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
I can't imagine how hard it was to not only prepare for this, but also to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
sharing is always, it's, as a guy, we see it as a weakness,
right.
a weak point in our life, but you got to get over that. I mean, it's just, I say it all the time, a learned disability is who I am. The trials that I've been through, it's created me to be who I am today. And there's nothing that I would want more than what I have today. So it's, God has blessed me so great. It's, I'm a man of few words. I don't have, but it's the life that I have today. Whenever I was 15, 16 years old, I would have never thought I would have the life that I have today. I didn't expect to see myself live to see 30. So, but to have the family that I have today, the love that I have today, the peace that I have today. And again, that was a short time. They say in training workouts, you can deal with anything for a minute. If you look at life as a whole, I know as you're going through the hell, it's hard and it seems like a long time. But brother, hang on, because it will be over with shortly if you let it. Make a choice not to continue to allow that to control your life. As people get mad at me all the time, it's a choice. You made a choice to do this. It is. Choose to do better for your life. Choose to break the chain and start moving forward. What happened in the past happened in the past. Move forward. every day is anew. Thank God for that day. Wake up every day and just thank God that I'm here. I got a new day to start all over again. So
no, and listen, like as your son, I'm beyond proud of you, and I'm grateful to be your son. And you're a man of few words, but this is our longest podcast. So, but every minute was worth it, and every minute was captivating. And again, thank you so much. This is going to reach out to so many people. And so if you're going through something right here, reach out to somebody, take my dad's story and use it for your own life. So Dad, thank you again for being on here.
Thank you. Love you.
Yeah. Love you, man.
Yeah. And Craig,
love you too, Tucker.
Love you too, Craig. But your story, as we're wrapping things up, is just such a powerful example of how God can take what the enemy and what other humans meant for evil and turn it into something good. And I just hope our listeners are grabbing on to the hope that's in your story and to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that they can have hope that this doesn't have to be the end of their story and it doesn't have to define who they are, whatever it is they're going through. So thank you so much, Craig, for bringing that to our listeners and making yourself vulnerable enough to share it with whoever's going to hear this. So can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on today. And yeah, I didn't feel like it was long at all. I was loving every minute of it.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So for all our listeners out there, go be like Craig, go be a dog today.
And go be like my dad and go be there for your dogs.
Go dog.